Hey everyone, so I just finished the first video to this kind of two-parter video that I wanted to do. I think I'm going to continue with doing videos all long week, or I'm going to try to, mostly because the last and final Spartan race for me this year is coming. It is now less than a week away. My Spartan Super race is on Saturday, September 9th, outside of Toronto, which I'm super excited for. The race has been moved, apparently, to closer somewhere near Collingwood, but it's still about the same time distance for me from Toronto from where the original one was, but I am super excited. I am not as nervous as I was about a week ago, and the reason I'm not as nervous as I was is because the distance of the Spartan Super has always been the thing that has scared me the most. It will be the longest distance I have ever ran. I've never run more than, well, technically now I have, but before the summer, before the Spartan Super, I had never run a distance longer than 10 kilometers. Getting through Spartan Super, which was 13 kilometers, I mean, even the 3 kilometers doesn't seem that far, but that extra 3K is very far when you're getting through these obstacles and getting through these races. The Spartan Beast is supposed to be a half marathon, which is, I think, it's supposed to be anywhere between 22 to 24 kilometers. So I mentally I was terrified of that distance until last week. I decided, I was stubborn, I was just determined. I said, screw it, you know what, I'm gonna put on my running shoes, I'm gonna put on my Camelback, and I'm just gonna run, and I'm gonna see how far I can get, where I can get, and turn around and come back home. And the distance I ended up running was 19 kilometers, and the only reason I stopped was because my feet hurt. And that's what happens when you run on cement. It's very different running on cement than it is on grass and on ground and gravel and through the woods. There's a lot more cushion there for your feet. And I'm not a huge fan of running through the city because it's a very boring run. I don't know what it was in my mind that just clicked that night and decided to go for this ridiculous run. I had, again, never ran that kind of a distance before, but I ran basically down to the harbor front, down by the CN Tower, turned around and came back to Etobicoke, which is the area I live in here in Toronto, and I have to say it was not as difficult as I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be a lot harder than it was, but something in my mind just went into beast mode and I just turned off all sense of reality, turned on a podcast, and just ran. And I didn't run fast, I didn't sprint, I didn't do it very quickly. I didn't set myself a time limit. It took me about 3 hours to do the distance, but you know, I'm not typically a runner. I have to carry a little bit more weight with me than, you know, maybe most runners do. Most runners are very thin, very agile, and I am not very thin, and I am agile. I will say, I will give myself that much credit, and I'm flexible, but I do carry a little bit more weight on me. But overall, as far as what I'm expecting for the Spartan Super, I'm expecting a lot of pain, I'm expecting a lot of burpees, but that isn't something I was afraid of. I mean, this is something I've expected either way, because I've done 3 of these races now in the last 2 years, and I am more excited to feel that adrenaline rush when you cross the starting line and when you cross the finish line. There is no feeling like that feeling. In the beginning, when you're starting, everything is just pounding in your head, your heart, your breathing, it's already kicking up, and you're breathing really hard as you usually go up the side of a mountain or up the side of a ski hill. You just feel the adrenaline dump that has filled you with all the excitement for at least days. At least that's my experience. I've been, you know, planning these races for almost a year now, and the fact that now the end is almost near, it makes me want to cry just thinking about it, the fact that it's almost over, because I don't want it to be over, but at the same time, I almost always, I mean, not almost always, I always cry at the finish line, and no matter what race it is, it can be the 10K that I do every single year, or it can be one of these Spartan races. I have cried every single time I've crossed the finish line, and the reason is because When it comes to these races, and when it comes to any race that I do, for me, I grew up not doing sports. I was never in teams. I never did any crazy, like, I was never a swimmer or played soccer or played tennis. I mean, I played all those sports for fun, but I never was a part of teams. I never won trophies or medals or did any of that. So now the fact that I can do that as an adult, it almost means a lot more, because it's so much more, it takes so much more effort and so much more time to make time to train, to work out, to run, when you've worked a 9-hour shift, or when you've worked all week long, or when you want to go eat junk food but you know you can't and you have to go work out instead, or you're not supposed to drink and you know you feel it the next day if you do, and you know it's gonna suck that much harder because you still have to go to the gym and work out. All of that is a huge factor, and it makes it that much more difficult as an adult to run these races, because you don't have all the time in the world to train and work out. Maybe some of you do. I definitely don't. It's something that I have to work on, as far as working towards and making time to train. But the factor of like never having to work with a team and never competing as a teenager was a huge factor, I think, into what it feels like when you cross the finish line now as an adult. These races are not meant to be easy. They're not supposed to be easy. They're supposed to be incredibly difficult for anybody and everybody that runs these races. They're supposed to be challenging. Even for the elites, it's supposed to be challenging. This isn't supposed to be easy. So when you cross that finish line after running for 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 10 hours, after running that kind of a distance, or walking or hiking or pushing yourself through that kind of a mental, that's why I always say it's not just the physical side to these races is so small versus the actual mental game you play with yourself, because it's not just you that you're competing against. If you are competing with other people, if you're looking to be in the elite heats, then that's one thing. But even that aside, you are not just competing against yourself, you are competing against the elements. You're competing against the landscape and the environment you are in. And trust me when I tell you, it is not easy. And it can really bite you in the ass, especially when you go somewhere that you are not used to, which I learned when I went to Montreal at the beginning of this summer. They have real mountains there, which I don't know that I didn't expect. I just didn't realize that they were going to be so much bigger than what I'm used to here in and around Toronto and within like Blue Mountain. Blue Mountain's not that treacherous, but that's the one thing I didn't plan for. I didn't plan for the elevation, and that became a huge struggle, and that became basically the defining thing I was fighting against the entire time I was in Montreal, was the elevation and the landscape and the environment I was in. That was a serious mountain, and I don't think I've ever done anything as crazy as that, basically without ropes and harnesses, or just scaling the side of this damn mountain and almost possibly falling down the side of it and taking people out with me. The feeling of crossing that finish line after fighting for hours and hours and just pushing and pushing and wanting to finish and wanting to get there and just wanting to finish within, for me, it's wanting to finish within a reasonable time period. I don't want to take a long time. That's the goal I've set for myself, is I don't want to take 6 to 7 hours to finish the Spartan Super or the Spartan Beast. I want to finish it in maybe 4 or 5 hours max. I don't want to take longer than that. Am I going to beat myself up about it if it does? No, I'm not, because it's just a matter of fucking finishing and getting my medal. That's all I want. But that feeling, I tear up at the thought of it. It's just the feeling of pure excitement, and you just feel so proud that you finished. And whether you run by yourself or you run with a group of people, there's just no feeling like that feeling of crossing. You have to do it to really experience it and understand what it's like, and to be handed one of these guys at the end of it is definitely the I almost totally even spaced and almost forgot to grab my medal finishing the Spartan super race here in Toronto, because my best friend actually came with me and waited and watched me race and waited for me at the finish line. And I saw her when I finished, and she saw me, and she was videotaping me, and I was crying and laughing, and I almost walked right by the guy who was giving out the medals and was taking the GPSs. But to have this is something that I've dreamt of for months, and to be so close to getting the last piece, and to constantly be told I'm crazy for doing these races, that it's like the dumbest thing, people are insane to be running through the mud, the cuts and the bruises. From the last race, my knee actually got sliced open and got infected, and it was infected for like a week. I actually had to go to the hospital and get antibiotics and get it cleaned out and all that. The bruises and the war wounds and the scarring, I mean, that's half the reason I do this. Life, I feel like, has been made so easy for us, especially if you live in a major city. It's boring, it's not exciting. The drinking life, the going out life, the city life overall, for me, has become incredibly boring. So to be able to do these kinds of things where once I tell people about it, they look at me and they don't expect me to be able to do something like this, and at the same time they think I'm absolutely crazy for doing these races, and I totally will take that, because I think it does take a level of mental strength that, you know, the physical aspect of it all, again, it's pushing through it and pushing through the pain, because the pain is temporary. The pain is temporary, and that's something that is the major thing you have to remember, is that the pain is only going to be there for the next 10 minutes or 5 minutes, or getting through, pulling that cement block through the mud in a chain, with a chain attached to the end of it, and your hands are being blistered and cut open, and that pain is only going to be there for the next couple of minutes until you cross that cement block over the finish line that you have to get it over. Then you can keep running, you can keep walking, you can pass, and you're done and you're over with it. Those last couple of burpees you have to do. It's just a few more you have to do to get on and keep moving on through the race. The pain is so temporary, and the rewarding feeling of just crossing that finish line is so much bigger than that. It is so much bigger than that. And I do have to say, the one other huge thing that I really wanted to talk about that really, it emotionally tugs at my heart, because I feel like in the days that we live in today, and I've had a version of this conversation when it comes to dating and meeting people, as connected as we are with social media and the internet, and I love all those things, don't get me wrong, I love all of that, I feel like, are so disconnected from one another. As much as people, you know, talk to one another, they lie, they disappear, they ghost each other, they just are willing to do whatever it is to get what they want and then forget about you, or just disappear out of your life, or just don't care. They don't care if they hurt your feelings. When it comes to these races, the one thing that's just amazes me every single time I show up is the community that Spartan has built around these races. The speech that they give at every single starting line is probably the most motivational speech I think I've ever heard in my entire life. They don't force you, but they ask you to greet the people around you. They ask you to shake their hands, because as much as it is about you and you crossing that finish line no matter what, because there is no quitting. You don't get the choice to quit these races. There is no quitting. You have to finish. But you will finish alone, and it's going to be because you finished, but the help along the way is because of the people around you, if you guys know what I mean. I know I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but the people around you are going to help you finish. Though you are finishing alone, they will be behind you, cheering you on, and getting you through those obstacles. And that is incredible, to turn to a complete stranger and ask them for help. It's the simplest form of just humanity, and it seems almost so ridiculous to get so emotional about. But when we live in a time where people are so greedy and so focused on things that don't matter in life, and when a race like this and a community like this boils it down to the most bare minimum point of helping one another and being there for one another and cheering each other on. That is incredible to see in person. To actually experience that is like no other feeling. That being helped over a wall by a complete stranger or helping somebody else over a wall is just as much of an adrenaline rush and a good feeling as it is to cross the finish line. If you just simply look up Spartan race on YouTube, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of videos of veterans and people who are active in the military running these races, who are amputees, who are in wheelchairs, and being helped out by the people around them, who are being helped through these races. And some of these people are, I've seen videos of amputees, people who are amputees getting through these races like fucking bosses. Like nothing is, like, it's not even a big deal to them. And that is an incredibly huge and motivating factor for me, with the fact that I am healthy. I don't have to worry about, I basically don't really have to worry about much. I am a very healthy person. I have all my limbs, I can breathe, I don't have asthma, I don't have any health issues. I'm a very healthy person, so there's no reason I can't get through one of these races. There are no excuses in my book for me to not be able to finish one of these races. And that's the way I look at it. It's just the amount of community and help and love that there is hidden behind, like, the mud and the excitement of, you know, the medals and all that is just phenomenal. And I ask any of you, I'll link a couple of videos in the description box of this video for you guys to check out that are incredibly motivating, even just to motivate you to go to the gym for the first time or get out there and run for the first time. These videos are incredibly inspiring and motivating, and I genuinely hope that I, in some way, I mean, the reason I talk about these races and the reason I do these videos about these races is because if I can do it, anybody can do it. I can run those distances, I work out a couple times a week, and I try to eat healthy, but I also drink and I also eat junk food, and I don't run every single day. I'm trying to get there, but I am lazy. That is my issue, is that I'm lazy and I like to make excuses, and I like to procrastinate as well. But anybody can do these races. Anybody can. You just have to say you're going to do it, and just do it. And you'll get through one of these races in no time. And you will feel better than you think. Probably physically, as far as, like, your capabilities go, you're gonna feel better than you ever have before. So I hope this hasn't been weird or rambly or too emotional for any of you. If you guys have any questions or want any more advice on what these races are all about and what to expect to finish these races, I'm going to try and do a couple more videos prior to the race on Saturday. I probably will get more nervous as it gets closer. I haven't even gotten my time yet. It hasn't been assigned yet. Hopefully it will be soon, in the next, like, 2 days, so I know what to expect, what time I have to get up, and when I need to get there and all that, so I can plan for all that. But if any of you have any questions, as always, feel free to leave them in the comment section down below, or reach me through my social media, which is my Twitter or my Instagram account. I will leave that, again, down in the description box below. So if you guys want to reach out to me and have a chat or a conversation, please feel free anytime to message me. And I hope all of you are enjoying your long weekend. I hope you guys, for any of you who are racing next weekend or anytime between today and then, or between now and the end of the season, good luck. Roo, for any of you who are fellow Spartans, good luck, and I hope to see you all at the finish line. Have a wonderful weekend, guys.